Hello everyone, and welcome to another newscast edition in around the Bostix broadcast. This is a news edition in around a Bostix bulletin and the Communique Tsunami. This is a chartered edition and a newscast edition in around another evidence-based perspective and a newscast as part of this Bostix broadcast as another Storm Bostix production. So here I'm gonna there'll be a sort of an overview in around some more collaborative works between 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 a social media a social media platform and also an academic institution, and where this works was presented sort of retrospectively in 2014 at the Involve sort of a conference that had taken place, and this works this collaborative works was works that was a collaborative between the Renal Patients Support Group, the RPSG, the London South Bank University, with a collaborator based at London South Bank University, or LSBU, and a colleague um, who was had a basis in around one of the NHS trusts in the Northwest region in the United Kingdom, and where collaboratively there was where collaboratively this works look to highlight the use of social media for people with long-term conditions to facilitate sort of facilitate learning in around higher education, and using a CKD, a chronic kidney disease perspective, and wherein the aims around this works was specifically to introduce and evaluate a sort of a sort of an involvement project in an academic setting, and to utilize a sort of a patient to patient discussions that seek that look that sorry that had taken place through the RPSG platform, and to facilitate sort of learning for second year undergrad nursing students on the in around the undergrad program, by in around the undergrad program at LSBU, London South Bank University, by highlighting the awareness of the importance of patient perspectives in around and specifically around hemodialysis, and vascular access care, and where this works actually seek to seek to seek to highlight highlight or having an awareness basis in around vascular access care in context of awareness in around the awareness of vascular access in a sort of in a sort of a prominent in a sort of a prominent way. So in around sort of the backgrounds around this works. So in the last decade, the use of technology in healthcare has changed dramatically. The use of social media, for example, Facebook, is often used to provide support for people with long-term conditions. chronic kidney disease, or CKD, is a long-term condition, and people who have severe or end-stage kidney disease or end-stage renal disease require forms of renal replacement therapy, or RRT, in the form of, for example, peritoneal dialysis or hemodialysis, um, uh, uh, or hemodialysis, and where hemodialysis in context requires particular vascular access, and where vascular access is referred to as an arterial as a fistula, or arteriovenous fistula. Now, in around as part of this background and of this works, the RPSG supports us seeks to support those people on various forms of renal replacement therapy. And at the time when this collaborative works was being was at the time when this collaborative works in sort of in 2014 had been carried out, the RPSG at that time had in around 3,000 service users globally. The study, the investigation was contemporary in that it utilized social media, and particularly utilized social media in context of a Facebook group, to recruit patient service users and care participants in order to support aspects of the data collection around aspects of this works. The RPSG provides sort of offers sorry offered the flexibility for its service users to participate in various renal related projects. And this was both a novel way to raise awareness on and around vascular access care, and to collect specific data around aspects of this works. This works was one of the first investigations conducted through the RPSG, and the RPSG as a social media platform, and again in around where this works, in and around this works where it was led. It was led by a colleague from the northwest region in the UK, and where that colleague um, had um, had approached the RPSG to in part raise aspects of awareness, and utilize the social media platform to to um, to help and gather some of the initial data from those participants, or the participants and sort of service users, where works in and around where this works was in around the basis around this works where it was where it had been pertinent and important. So in around this, there was in around sort of the theme in around sort of using social media, and sort of leadership and gaps in healthcare education. So there are several papers that have highlighted the use of using online methodologies to collect research data, and the internet as a source for healthcare information, and for service user empowerment. And having conducted some background research, and raising sort of and where colleagues and collaborators in around this works seek to raise sort of a vascular access awareness, sort of aligned to this work, and sort of retrospectively, it was apparent that there were gaps in healthcare and education in specific aspects around vascular access, and awareness. And this was also evident through sort of where service users on the through the RPSG, for example, where there were shared sort of lived experiences observations and understanding concerns are raised from service users and patients and carers in different aspects around vascular access. And in around this, attending the collaborators, one of the lead collaborators in this works, attended a sort of a patient leadership course at a particular any as part of at a particular at a particular NHS or National Health Service trust, which paved the way for initial thoughts and interaction on how to potentially structure parts of of this project in around awareness, and wherein the awareness was also part of a sort of initiative in and around in around awareness, and also where collaborators, or one of the lead collaborators in this work, sought to sort of campaign some more campaign some of the evidences in around the sort of disparities or issues that have existed in around vascular access, and also provided potential opportunities to disseminate the findings in around this works. So so in around sort of the methodology and planning of this works, um, the vascular access or fistula access project awareness initiative began with a few basic questions, and here are those specific questions. Number one, what were you told by the vascular team about the care of your vascular access, or where the vascular access is a surgical procedure, and by default that's done in, for example, the non-dominant arm, in the non-dominant forearm, and before and after a fistula procedure. Number two, what were your concerns after your surgical procedure? Number three, what did your pre-dialysis team offer you any information? Number four, what support were you offered, if any? Number five, were you made aware of were you made of fistula awareness or bands, and where one of the lead colleagues sought to highlight awareness through sort of sort of developed or sort of co-developing of sort of wristbands for wristbands on the on the arm, or on the arm where surgical procedure had taken place. And so the question, one of the questions again around this was, were you made aware of fistula awareness sort of wristbands, or bands to alert health professionals, for example, to not use the fistula arm for example, arterial blood pressure monitoring, or cannulation or needling. And number six, were the fistula awareness bands easy to were the fistula awareness bands easy to locate? And had you been have you been in a situation had you been in a situation where you were left vulnerable, even though you were wearing a fistula awareness band, a fistula awareness wristband, or band in or outside of the hospital setting? And number eight was, did wearing a fistula awareness band make you feel make you feel comfortable, comfortable. Number 9 was what action did you take to protect the fistula. Number 10, have you had any damage have you had any damage to your fistula? Number 11, what effect did this have on you? And number 12, do you see your fistula issues being sort of more psychological or physical? And number 13 was moving forward. Did you feel more continuous professional development, or CPD is or was required? It is or was required. So these questions formed a thread, formed a thread that was initially posted on the RPSG between December 2013 and January 2014. RPSG service users or members were invited to post comments on vascular access experiences in order to collect data on main concerns. In addition to the RPSG, three additional kidney-related or renal-related social media platforms or Facebook groups were also approached to help support to help support and promote this sort of works or project with the same questions. The groups at the time, in around when this works was conducted in 2014, included the Dialysis Discussion Uncensored group, the Living with Polycystic Kidney Disease group, and the Kidney Disease and Diet Helps group during the same duration of this works. The thread on all groups were monitored and managed by an RPSG honorary researcher, and comments were then anonymized and forwarded onto a collaborator at the London South Bank University to be used in a classroom setting. So in around this now some comments now in around where RPSG members or service users, for example, posted, and again these comments are anonymized, but also to inform, as part of this works, this project or awareness sort of or initiative received 180 posts between four Facebook groups at the time when this works was being carried out, and the post below, the comments below have been selected specifically from the on the RPSG platform, and not so much on the other platforms, on the other sort of Facebook groups, owing to and in keeping with sort of in keeping with the remit, specifically around the RPSG. So one of the first comments was, think professionals need to be aware, as they won't see these bands or fistula very often. Number 2, I must be honest, I was given one of these by a renal pre-dialysis team when fistula was constructed. I think they're a really good idea. Number 3 was, I think you should get given them. I have been admitted to another hospital, and I have had doctors and nurses adamant that they are using the arm, despite telling them that I have a fistula. Number 4, these bracelets, or in referring to the wrist, these sort of wristbands, one of the comments was in regard to these bracelets. these bracelets are a brill idea. Um, um, Number five was I worry that I might not be able to speak and use my arm. So thank you again, and where the comment continued to say, um, uh, yeah, where the comment continued to inform, comment continued to inform that where one of the collaborators had been named in the as part of the discussion, and say and said and where the comment informed uh, uh, us renal patients need all the help we can get. And number six was something else I've talked about, is a sleeve to cover the fistula, during ops, as if you read some see as if read some of the comments, like myself, all manner of things have been used. It's all about us being 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 sorry it's all about us uh, being safe, and keeping our fistula safe at the end of the day, and so it's important. Number seven, I was shocked, as the number of times I had to tell nursing staff to take blood or take arterial blood pressure from the other arm, as I had a fistula, and as they had a fistula on their left arm. And number eight was I have spent in around 3 days in my I spent 3 days in a local hospital, during which time I was in A&E, in accident emergency, and three different wards, and none of them renal. In one of these, the staff noticed my fistula armband or wristband, and said that they thought it was a good idea, and hopefully, if more of our fellow patients wore one, one any wore one wore one, any accidental use can be avoided. Number nine was what I would like to add. What I would like to add, though, is more training for staff, as most are keen to learn, and where they praised me for wearing, and they have been they have maybe been told in training, but some have not. So more needs to be done. The vulnerable are my biggest concern. But then where this comment continued to say that generally, many are vulnerable, and not everyone wants to shout out like I did. And number 10 was, I was thinking that they could even maybe do one for patients on peritoneal dialysis. I know it's not as much of a pain as hemodialysis, but I think it always helps to have an easy way for NHS staff to see if a patient has something the same with has something the same with transplants as well. So those were basically a few comments that came out of these 180 posts that were in around this works, and in around sort of the findings, analysis, and themes. The RPSG received 112. So when this works was carried out, sorry, the RPSG received 112 comments 112 comments and 30 plus likes. The dialysis discussion uncensored group received 43 comments and 30 plus likes. The living and polycystic kidney disease group received 3 comments and 10 likes, and the kidney disease and diet helps group received 22 comments and 10 plus likes. Analysis helped derive 4 particular themes in around this works, and thus number 1, patient psychology; number 2, empowerment; number 3, education and understanding; and 4, awareness. In around sort of the sort of teaching aspect, and so teaching student, for example, teaching student nurses, and in around the evaluation aspects of this work. There were about 200 student nurses who attended a teaching session at London South Bank University, or LSBU, and all were very intrigued in the work around the RPSG, and around the RPSG social media platform, and all had good ideas for increasing awareness, including again sort of number 1, wristbands; number 2, a question on admission sheets that prompts staff to ask if a patient has a fistula; and number 3, where renal nurses educating general nurses about fistula care. And student nurses suggested in around this works as well, a national campaign, a national campaign website, to seek additional funding, or funding support in around particular aspects around this works. So in summary, Facebook, as a social media platform, allowed a sort of a good general platform for people to interact, and it appeals to generally all audiences, or varying audiences. The RPSG supported and prompted this project and awareness sort of initiative, and where the group raises, and wherein the RPSG platform, in addition, had retrospectively before initiating this campaign, raised has been a social media platform in raising CKD awareness at all CKD severities and stages. Fistula access plays a massive part in the world of CKD, and awareness and care should be a valued concern for health professionals, since it can impact on patient psychology, well-being, and this all links to coping. In around health professionals, in around sort of health professionals as well. Health professionals should strive to empower themselves more, and staff generally need to where this works had identified that generally, staff needed to have a more sense in around empathy, understanding and knowledge that a fistula care needs to be taken more seriously, and not just in the kidney specialty, but across all healthcare specialties, since patients and service users can have a number of clinical complications. Another part of this summary was health professionals should form partnerships with patients, or for better understanding of fistula care and educational outcomes, and more sort of in around this, more is that of more sort of broadly, a fistula sort of band or wristband should be available for service users or patients on forms of hemodialysis or renal replacement therapy, and these should be part of a patient's care plan. And a few kidney patient associations, sort of retrospectively, or KPAs, offer sort of wristbands for free, whilst others have them for sale to help raise funds. Patients or service users also need to empower themselves to ensure that they are aware of how care should be received. So sort of perspective works perspective works sort of that were documented as part of this sort of works at the time. More educational or continual professional development CPD needs to take place for healthcare staff to reflect and self evaluate upon how to better practice, reflecting plan to attend, where at the time there had been a sort of sort of CPD based focuses in around the NHS Leadership Academy to become a better leader, a better leader in around particular initiatives as well. And fistula awareness sort of where one of the main collaborators, one of the main leads and collaborators around this works had prompted fistula awareness packs, which should become were which had been documented as a way to as a way to be part of this works and part of the initiative, and where these fistula packs would include, for example, number one, a sort of wristbands to wear around the wrists. Number two, sort of information leaflet about the use of the bands or wristbands. And number three, dressings for use in case of emergencies. Number four, ID or wallet size card, which helps to highlight patient or service user has a fistula access point. And five, wristband information that can be worn around the neck, for example. And Additionally, further awareness has had taken place through sort of stories or a story around this works, or sort of retrospectively in a local newspaper, where one of the lead collaborators in around this works had approached a local newspaper about this works. And at the same time, the when this works was being carried out, the lead collaborator also had approached the one of the main NHS trusts in the northwest region in the United Kingdom, and had prompted a sort of a piloting of a fistula awareness pack as well. In around the sort of conclusions around this, the feedback from the RPSG highlighted that all health professionals need to gain or should gain a better understanding of, for example, hemodialysis access care for CKD patients, or those patients with chronic kidney disease. The use of social media for people with CKD has allowed sort of a number of comments to be collected or collated and excuse me, to be collated, and wherein this had also helped facilitate sort of learning and teaching sort of nursing students in around this works in context of higher education. And also where patients need to take more where patients or service users should be encouraged to take more control of healthcare plans, so so that any issues can be raised immediately to avoid psychological distress or psychological distress. Fistula care is fistula care is of high importance to all service users or patients, and some of the comments highlighted inform had informed of a very had informed of experiences. A fistula sort of wristband is perhaps was also important in regard to awareness in context of ID or identification, and some recipients who some service users or recipients commented and viewed that the wristband the basis in around uh, a wristband would has a basis in being a sort of a comfort blanket, so that a comfort blanket or a security blanket in some regards, so that for example health professionals for example for example don't do not sort of abruptly seek to draw blood, for example, from the fistula axis area, fistula axis area, and at the time this was a novel a collaborative approach, a novel collaboration between an academic between academia and social media platform, and raising awareness in context of research as had been an important sort of basis in around in around the RPSG, and one of the main sort of concluding aspects of this works is was that the RPSG is a place where awareness meets research. So that draws this newscast around this Bostix broadcast to a close. The resources in around this works will be highlighted in the descriptive parts on social media. So on social media as part of this particular newscast edition of this Bostix broadcast, and this sort of Bostix bulletin. The full works around this can be accessed through the renal patient support group, RPSG, as well. So once again, this has been a newscast edition, a Bostix bulletin, and part of the Bostix broadcast, and a Bostix broadcast aligned to the Communique Tsunami. This is a chartered edition, an evidence-based perspective, and once again another this has been another Storm Bostix production. Thank you.